Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I am your host, Nelson, here on this wonderful Monday afternoon. Hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, a nice Father's Day, and a very nice day watching the NBA Finals if you are a Dallas Mavericks fan, and a very terrible day watching the finals if you are a Boston Celtics fan. And speaking of which, those are obviously going to be the first, that's going to be the first segment that we lead on. It's going to be between the Mavericks and the Celtics game 4 and how the Mavericks completely stunned the Celtics at home in this game. Did not expect the results of this game, did not expect the game to be as lopsided as it was in favor of Dallas, so we're definitely going to talk a lot about that. Then in the second segment, we are going to be looking at Klay Thompson and how he unfollowed Golden State from on Instagram and randomly followed Paolo Banchero, so we're just going to talk a little bit about that. There's also the possibility that Derek White might replace Kawhi Leonard on Team USA for the Olympics if Kawhi isn't healthy to make the roster. So that's going to be something that I'll talk about in the third segment. Then in the fourth segment, we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to shift our focus to the WNBA because Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese duked it out once again. And Angel Reese ended up saying some comments towards the end of the game talking about a special whistle. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that because I did see that game live yesterday. And it was a very good game between two of the most iconic women basketball players out there in the WNBA right now, and two of the most iconic women basketball players from college. So we also have a special fifth segment at the end of every fourth segment, so be sure to stay tuned for that while I reveal it at the end of the fourth segment. So before I begin, I'd like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is GSMCPodcast.net. And with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and talk about the Mavericks and how they were able to win Game 4 in a very surprising fashion. Now, a lot of everyone thought this was going to be a sweep. I know I thought this was going to be a sweep, and I definitely didn't expect the Dallas Mavericks to put up this kind of performance under so much pressure. Granted, I guess it wasn't really that much pressure because it's not like they really had anything to lose. They were just fighting to not get swept. So there was a lot that happened in this game that has never happened in the history of basketball. So excuse me. But essentially, the Dallas Mavericks and they ended up winning 122-84. This was a blowout. The minute the game started, it's unbelievable just like how quickly the matchups unfolded. Luka Doncic ended the game with 29 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Kyrie ended the game with 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. And honestly, it wasn't a juggernaut scoring performance from these two star players, but it was a very good and a much better defensive performance coming in from these players, especially Luka, ever since there was a whole, stipulation on Luka being an incompetent defender and the rest of the team not stepping up. That also didn't happen in this game. There were a lot of players that ended up stepping up in this game, and it was just a completely different story from what we've seen from Dallas in the entirety of this series. This singular game alone propelled them to end up having more points in total of the series than the Boston Celtics. So what I mean by that is that, in the 4 games played, the Dallas Mavericks, they in total ended up scoring more points, in total, when you take all of the totals from all their games, than the Celtics. Despite the fact that they're down 3-1 right now, they scored more points. So that's what this singular performance, this singular blowout has done. Now, for some positives, a couple positive stats, Derek Lively, I didn't put him up on the on the graphic, but he became the second rookie since Magic Johnson to record consecutive double doubles in the NBA Finals, which is nothing short of impressive. And obviously, it's all of this is incredible coming in from Dallas. Now, let's talk about some of the negatives coming in from this game. So basically everything wrong with the Celtics. Now, Drew Holiday ended with a box plus minus of minus 38. This is the worst plus minus ever recorded in a finals game since the stat was first tracked all the way back in 1997. And we were just talking about, and we were all just thinking, like, okay, Drew Holiday is making a case to be the Finals MVP, and this one bad performance just completely botched it. Just completely botched it. And now there's absolutely zero argument for Drew Holiday being a Finals MVP candidate. None whatsoever. And the entire Celtics team played bad. Jason Tatum was 4 for 10 with 15 points, and Peyton Picard was 5 for 14. Jaylen Brown had his first bad game in the postseason in a while. 3 for 12 with 10 points, 1 of 5 from 3. Drew Holiday ended the game 4 of 10. And, again, with the worst box plus minus ever recorded. I can never pronounce this guy's last name. Mikhailiuk, I can't pronounce his last name. I genuinely can't. And I just call him Svi, so, like, because it is just easier, or, like, really, it's, like, it might be Svi, it might be Svi, I have no idea how you pronounce these people's names sometimes, but I call him Svi. So it's, like, he shot 1 of 7 from the field as well, and, I mean, again, the whole team, horrible. They shot pretty good from 3, but pretty good isn't going to win you a game in the NBA Finals. It's not like, Luka and Kyrie, like, played phenomenally either. I mean, Luka missed every single three-pointer he took, and Kyrie made just one three-pointer that he took. Now, it was really the rest of the role players stepping up for them. Now, and the defense being a lot better than what it usually was. Tim Hardaway ended the game 5 for 7 from the field with 15 points. And let's see, Dante Exum, he ended the game with 10 points. Gafford ended the game with 7. And again, it's just like, the rest of the role players, they all shot really efficiently from the field. And their defense as a whole as well was just much better, on top of the fact that the Celtics just played really, really bad in this game. So everything lined up for Dallas in this one. Another crazy stat that has about towards this game is that this is the third largest margin of victory in NBA Finals history. So 38 points. That's the margin of victory. Now the one above that is ironically the 2008 Celtics against the Lakers all the way in 2008, and several years ago, on this specific day, honestly, like, coincidentally, on this specific day, several years ago, they ended up winning the finals. 16 years ago, on this day. And so now we have sort of like, a chance for history to somewhat repeat itself, because that championship that they won in Boston is the one thing that was, separating the Lakers and the Celtics from championships for the longest time, up until LeBron ended up winning it in the bubble. And the one above that is the Bulls against Utah in 1998, when they ended up winning by 42 points. So this is a historic game. And on top of that, how I mentioned how not a single team being down 0-3 in finals history or in NBA history has won the series? Well, no team has ever won a series in the finals after losing by 38 points. That's never happened before. So it's like it's like when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object kind of thing, where it's like we have no idea which of these is going to be affected and which of these is going to override the other. Now, another really crazy stat that I pulled from the game is Jason Tatum ended with the third lowest box plus minus by an All NBA first team player since 2000. So this is he's the only player in NBA history with multiple games of having a plus minus of minus 30 in the finals. The only player in the history of basketball to record a plus minus of negative 30 or worse more than once. That is a horrible stat to have. And on top of that, the stat that I mentioned before, where he owns two of the worst box plus minus performances by an All NBA first team player since 2000. That is also really, really bad. And one of the things that sort of I'll bring up again in the fifth segment is how the Celtics, they seem really like meh, if that makes sense, about this entire series. Like, genuinely, they seem meh. The responses to the media are like whatever. The responses towards like who they think's gonna win is like meh, and they don't really seem motivated at all. And I'm going to bring this up again in the fifth segment because I think it's going to play into this game in the future. But it's like, that is like the mentality of just like, meh, like if we win, like we'll win, it's whatever. Like, that's a terrible mentality, I think, that a good enough team like the Celtics can have, especially after this kind of performance. The fact that they like try to play it off and they're not really stressing about it, I guess you could say, it doesn't make any sense to me, because after all of these historical after this historical margin of victory, after all of this, you aren't even the slightest bit worried. But that's all I really like had to say about that sort of thing. Now, is this a bump in the road for the Celtics, or is this like or should this be taken a little bit more seriously? Well, we'll find out in the future, but I will say that in 2017, the Cavs ended up scoring the most points in a single first half in finals history on the Warriors, and that didn't faze them in the slightest when they went home. So I'm just going to, leave that there, because we never know what could happen. But yeah, that's basically all I have for this segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the second segment, where I talk about Klay Thompson and how he unfollowed his Golden State Warriors teammates. So I'll be right back after the short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. Some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC basketball podcast. No, not the third segment, the second segment, excuse me. Brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this second segment, we are going to be talking about Klay Thompson and how he unfollowed the Warriors on Instagram for whatever reason that might be. Before I begin, however, I'd like to remind everybody to please use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Really helps the show. It makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. Once again, the link is GSMCPodcast.net. And with that out of the way, and with that out of our hairs, let's go right ahead and talk about Klay Thompson, who's been a very, very interesting, player to talk about sort of the entirety of the season. Oh, and there was just recently a new report about Klay Thompson's mindset going into free agency. So I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit about that as well. But let me just go ahead and there we go. So, see, that is the magnificent Klay Thompson, Mr. 0 for 10 in an elimination game himself. And I call him that because for some reason, whenever you look at almost every single Instagram comment about a sports, about anything that has to do with sports, there's that one guy in the comments section that's like, don't forget Klay Thompson went 0 for 10 in an elimination game. And he's been getting talked about like the entirety of the regular season from last year. And from ever since the Warriors, ever since they won the championship in 2022, Klay Thompson has been getting a lot of disrespect from a lot of the players, or not a lot of the players, but a lot of the media and a lot of the fans. And it doesn't really seem like he's going to be on Golden State much longer, given the way that he's been playing with Golden State. I mean, he was degraded at one point to being taken off the bench. That's how bad he was shooting. His defense is nowhere near the same thing that it was when the Warriors were, when they had Kevin Durant and when they were a relatively young team. That was half of his value as a player, his defense. And that aspect is it's sort of out the window now that, he's suffered from several leg injuries on top of another, tearing his ACL, tearing all sorts of ligaments in his legs. And it's his legs, they can't really keep up, which is okay because it's you get old, that's normal. So the other half of his game, the 3-point shooting, he also wasn't doing that very efficiently at all throughout the year. And it seemed to affect him, it affected his mindset, and it's been affecting his play, and it's been affecting the Warriors for a while now. And it's really it may have gotten to his head just because all the constantly bragging about 4 rings. I guess this is that form of karma. But I'm going to go ahead and read the report on Klay's mindset heading into free agency. So Klay's less than 2 weeks away before becoming an unrestricted free agent, and it sounds like he is genuinely open to playing for a team other than the Golden State Warriors for the first time in his NBA career. So let me just go ahead and continue to skim through this. So here's a quote. Klay Thompson, I'm told, is open to all external options in free agency coming up. He intends to test free agency, Charania said. We know the Warriors. This is on Run It Back, by the way. If you have no idea what that is, you can go ahead and check out their account on Twitter or on X. My bad. But we know the Warriors want him back. They offered him an extension before the start of the season. They're going to see if there can be a deal that gets done. But he's going to be there in the marketplace seeking offers elsewhere. So the question is not whether the Warriors want Thompson back. The sharpshooter struggled with his shot and had his role reduced late in the season. He averaged 17 points per game and still is one of the more capable contributors to the team. However, it's not hard to envision a rival team offering Thompson significantly more money than the Warriors are willing to pay, which is the biggest problem and the biggest issue here in this little debacle, I guess you could say. So that's will Klay Thompson go for just being with the Warriors, or does he want the money now? Is he done because to be fair, he doesn't really have to ring chase. He already has 4 of them, and he's already cemented his legacy in all of NBA, being one of the best 3-point shooters that the playoffs has ever seen. So he doesn't need to ring chase. If anything, he needs to. It seems like he's chasing the bag now, but that's just me. But another thing that should be noted with this is that I mentioned he unfollowed the Warriors. He also deleted an Instagram post of him with Steph Curry and the recent championship that they won. And, that seems like a little bit much. Like, is that, like, that seems like a bit dramatic to me. Maybe, he's just doing that, like, to scare people and just be dramatic because, that could be a pretty good strategy. But at the same time, like, really, is it that dramatic? Is it really that deep? But I digress. I mean, let's see. How do I put this? I mean, Klay, he's a great player. He's been a phenomenal shooter for almost all of his life. A couple of bad games and a couple of, internet memes have reduced his legacy slightly to the point where it's like nobody really remembers how dangerous of a shooter this man was. You only remember his 0 for 10 performance in an elimination game. You only remember that. You don't remember Game 6 Klay. You don't remember Klay Thompson scoring 37 and a quarter. You don't remember Klay Thompson just, 12 dribbles or something, scoring 60 points, however many points it was. Like, you don't really remember that now. You only remember the elimination game, which is a little bit unfair for Klay. And maybe he does need a fresh start somewhere else. But one of the locations that it seems like he's really interested in is the Orlando Magic. Now, the Magic, they're, coincidentally also a playoff team. Like, they're in a much better spot than the Golden State Warriors are right now. So maybe maybe he isn't done ring chasing with his career. But at the same time, the Magic, they are a relatively young team. He followed Paolo Banchero on Instagram. So, might be just a little bit dramatic and might be reaching a little bit, but again, you have no idea with some of these players, because most of the time, granted, there are times where it's like it's revealed that there's some tampering involved. I remember there was this one instance where I forget who it was, but he was following like all of these guys on Instagram that weren't a part of his team, and then the league found out that he was tampering. I forget who it was. I forget exactly who it was, but I do remember it happening, but it's just I completely forget the context of all of it. So my bad, but that is there's definitely a possibility for that to be true. Now, will it be later investigated for tampering? I don't think so. But I mean, that it's just a possibility that's out there, because it's like, I mean, these kinds of things, they look like a sign of tampering. Like it seems like it's a sign, but maybe it's like that's what they want you to think. Like, some sort of reverse psychology. So it's like it's really difficult to figure out exactly which side he's going to go. I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to just do both and is like, okay, I'll go to a contender that is willing to give me money, because it seems like those are still on the table, but we'll see. But that's all I really have to talk about Klay Thompson and his free agency and his little Instagram problems, whatever you want to call it. It's not really, it's kind of odd how that's one of the big news, one of the big basketball newses right now. Just the fact that, oh my God, he unfollowed Golden State. Oh my gosh, he unfollowed, or he started following Paulo. But that's genuinely a big deal, because it's like, ooh, this might be a sign. You never know. But it also might just be a little bit dramatic, because it's like is it really that necessary? But that's just me. Again, that is just me. But with that out of the way, we are going to go ahead and go into our break, and then we'll go ahead and pivot into our third segment, where we will be talking about Team USA and Kawhi Leonard and Derek White, and the possibility of Kawhi being replaced. So I will talk a little bit about that after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be talking about who is going to replace Kawhi. What player has the best chance of replacing Kawhi? Because why would Kawhi be replaced? That is going to be everyone's question. Why would a two-time Finals MVP and Defensive Player of the Year decide to not play for Team USA unless either A, he opts out, which why would he opt out, or B, he's hurt? And the answer is B. There's a possibility that he might not be 100% healthy coming this year's Olympics. Now, that is, for Team USA, that's nothing really to panic about, I guess you could say, because we have a lot of great players on the roster, and there are a lot of fantastic people, fantastic all-stars, fantastic role players. They're just all great. All of them, they do their job very well. Hall of Famers, elite talent. Makes total sense that it's not really something to worry about, if that makes sense, for who's going to be on the roster and things of that nature. And because usually Team USA, they usually have the best athletes, because that's just how the NBA has been. The NBA draws in a lot of the best athletes from all over the world, especially now. And that was kind of embarrassing. But aside from that, the players that join Team USA are some of the best players that come from they don't even some of them, they come from other parts of the world. Like, for example, Kyrie, he was born in Australia. Joel Embiid, now he was born in France, and he's not even playing for the French national team, which it's a benefit of being Team USA, because it's you're always going to have the best basketball team. It's usually the sport that USA has to lose. It's every team wants to beat USA in basketball. We just dominate it every single time. So, with all that in mind, the player that is most likely going to replace... Oh, I did that on accident. Whoops, that's my bad, guys. That was embarrassing. But aside from that, I wanted to click on this slide right here. Jeez, that was very embarrassing. But look at him. Derek White. He is the next player that could possibly be replacing Kawhi. And I'm sitting here thinking, why and how? I don't want to be... No disrespect whatsoever, but seriously, why and how? Team USA has been a... I don't even know it's been a dream roster of some of best players from every single team that you could possibly think of. Every single team. Starting from 1992 all the way up to even all the way up to now, it's always had some of the best players. And putting in a role player on... Here we go with TJ in the chat. Here we go with TJ. Now, putting in a role player on Team USA, I am sorry, I do not agree with it. I don't agree with it whatsoever. There are so many better options than Derek White, and there's so many better options to replace Kawhi Leonard than just Derek White. Now, TJ, he's in the chat. He's saying, better not be disrespecting soon-to-be NBA champion Derek White. He still thinks that the Celtics, he's still confident on the Celtics. And granted, it makes sense to be confident on the Celtics. They are up 3-1 in this series. But I wouldn't be that confident just based off of how they're talking towards the media. But that's aside from that. Now, I think there are better players than, now, I'm not saying that Derek White isn't a good player. But I do think that there are better players that could be considered for the spot on Team USA that isn't Derek White. For example, Kyrie Irving. I don't know, maybe the guy that's in the NBA Finals too, that's going up against Derek White. Now, I know he's not playing that well, but Kyrie, he used to play for Team USA, and he used to win with Kevin Durant on the roster, so I don't understand why the Team USA has not even considered taking Kyrie Irving on the squad, and would rather take someone like Derek White. Now, I don't want to say someone like Derek White, but what I mean by that is a role player like Derek White, I guess you could say, because this Team USA, we're not really used to, or at least I'm not really used to seeing role players on the squad. It's usually either a top 1 or a top 2 player on a team, depending on how good the team is, of course. And they're going to be one of the top players in the NBA. Derek White is not in the conversation for being one of the top players in the NBA. We'll look at the hold on just one second. We'll look at the 92 Olympics roster. Now, we'll just for an example. Just for an example. Now, let me there's someone else in the chat. Gloglum, my precious, says hello. Hello, my precious. Now, obviously, I'm pretty sure, that's a reference to Golem from, what was it? The Hobbit, I believe it was. And, there's also, The Hobbit, that's what it was. And, yeah, I know that movie. I watched it before. But let's go ahead and look at the, the roster on Team USA. So let me just go ahead. So we have obviously Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. They were both the top 2 players on one of the best teams in the NBA. Stockton and Karl Malone. They were also the top two best players on their team in the NBA. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, again, the best players on 2 of the best teams in the league at the time. Now, granted, the Celtics, they weren't really the same juggernaut that they were in the 80s, but, it was still a very competent team, and with a very competent player, arguably the best player on that entire, Celtics team. Same with the Lakers, with Magic Johnson. Then there's Patrick Ewing coming from the Knicks, again, the best player on the team. Chris Mullin from Golden State, again, the best player on the team. Well, one of the best players on the team, because Chris Mullin was part of a big 3. Chris Mullin, Tim Hardaway, and Mitch Richmond, I believe. Run TMC, that was what they were called? Again, it was way before my time, so it was, forgive me if I messed that up, way before I was even born. And let's see here. David Robinson for the San Antonio Spurs. Again, one of the better players, or the best player on the Spurs. Won MVP while he was on the Spurs. Didn't win it yet, but, was still one of the better players in the league and on his own team. And then is Charles Barkley, who, again, was also one of the better players on his, and the best player on his team at the time. Then Clyde Drexler as well, who was chosen over Isaiah Thomas. But again, those 2 players are the more important players on their team. The main player on their team. Derek White is not a main player on his team. Of all of the options that are on the team, I have him as like, dead last of the entire starting five. He is the last option that I would have. That's just me though. Like, I mean, granted, I don't think he's a third option. If you like, at least especially as of right now, I don't think he's a third option for the team. So I'm very, very surprised that they would even consider putting Derek White on the squad, despite the fact that he is, not even a second option on his team. And we'll go with the 2008 Olympic basketball team as well, just for even more reference. So Carmelo Anthony, again, best player on this was in 2008, so it would be the Nuggets at the time, regardless whether it was Nuggets or Knicks, still the best player. Then there was Chris Bosh. Now, at the time, he was on Toronto, so again, best player on Toronto. Then Kobe Bryant, arguably one of the best players in the league at the time. Dwight Howard, again, arguably one of the best players at his position at the time. And LeBron James, another player that was in the argument for the best player at his position at the time. Jason Kidd, best player on his team and one of the better players. And Chris Paul, again, best player on his team, one of the better point guards in the league. Tyshawn Prince, now, wasn't really, like, he was very popular back then, I guess you could say. Like, towards the end of his career, like, he wasn't really, like, all that, I will say. But he is an NBA champion, so, take with that what you will. But, aside from that, other than that NBA championship, that was really like, the big thing of his career. But aside from that, I guess you could call him a role player. I guess you could call him that. But then next on the list, let's see, Michael Redd. Now, at the time, he was a pretty good player and he was a phenomenal player, actually, like, for the team, not just for Team USA, but, like, in the league, and was one of the rising stars. Dwayne Wade as well, again, one of the better players. Same with Deron Williams. Now, these guys, they were all in arguments for being one of the top players either on their team or in the NBA. And Derek White has never really been in any of those conversations. And I don't see that. Now, granted, and you guys might be asking me, okay, well, who would replace him? Now, I mean, the obvious answer for me, it would be Kyrie Irving. I think Kyrie would be, definitely the best option to replace Derek White. And I really don't think there's, like, any other player that you can really think of or that should deserve the spot over Kyrie. I can't really think of any player that deserves the spot other than Kyrie at the moment. But it definitely shouldn't be Derek White. That's just me. And that's my opinion. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Derek White deserves this position? Do you think this isn't his place? Like, again, another player that should have been on Team USA over him, his own teammate, Jaylen Brown. He might be the damn Finals MVP coming up this after this game later tonight. And let's see. There's also Jalen Brunson, another guard that is just significantly better than Derek White. Not on the defensive side of the ball, obviously, but, scoring the ball and how he was playing. Granted, he does have a broken hand, so maybe he won't be able to, wouldn't be able to play even if he, like, was selected. But the fact that he's not even in the running to be selected is crazy to me. But Kyrie or Jaylen Brown, I think they would be better options to replace Kawhi. Because now Jaylen Brown genuinely has an argument of being the Finals MVP. Like, there's really, you have to put a Finals MVP up on there. But that's all I have for this third segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the fourth segment where we talk a little bit about the Fever game and the Chicago Sky game. And we are going to, take a look at, Angel Reese's comments, just everything that happened throughout this game right after this short break. So be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC. to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be looking at not really looking at, but we're going to be talking about the Chicago Sky game between the Indiana Fever. Obviously, this was one of the highly anticipated matchups in the WNBA. The Sky, they have Angel Reese on the team. Everybody knows who Angel Reese is right now. Depending on what your opinions are of her, they might be, some of them might be positive, some of them might be rather negative, just based off of her attitude. I don't really I'm rather, positive towards Angel, but recently, I've sort of been I'm usually positive with Angel. When she was in college, I liked the fact that she was talking her talk when she was up. I love the fact that she's loud and aggressive, and she plays with her heart. I love all of that, but all of this stuff that's been going on recently in with the WNBA and how they've been commenting on Caitlyn and all the things that they've been doing. Now I'm I'm not really on her side at this point. Now it really stinks because I really like Angel Reese and I really like her game and I think it's phenomenal, but it's just that attitude that she has. It's really I can understand why a lot of people don't really find her likable, because it's just not a very likable attitude. Now it's not. I'm not even trying to say anything disrespectful or but it's just I'm just saying I can totally understand why her attitude is a big problem, because some of the things that she says directed towards some of these players they're a bit disrespectful, and I understand she wants to have her respect as well, and she deserves to have her respect, but there's different ways of going about it, and the way that she's going about it, it really just doesn't make any sense. And so another player on the team is Camila Cardoso, and she was on South Carolina. Now, obviously, Caitlyn has history with both of these players. She lost to Angel Reese 2 years ago, but then beat her in the recent NCAA women's tournament last year. But then she lost to Camila Cardoso after beating Camila Cardoso to play Angel Reese in the finals the year before that. So she's met both of them in the finals, and she's beaten both of them before the finals. It's just she's lost to both of them in the finals. So that's the history between her and that's the history between Angel, Caitlyn, and Camila. Excuse me. Now, why do I have a problem with Angel right now? Well, because of this. Now, you see this play right here. This image right here, and this play was recorded, and it was talked about on CNN. It was talked about everywhere because it's this was a flagrant foul by Angel Reese, and obviously it's a flagrant foul. I mean, look at where her hand is. She just whacked Caitlyn across the back of the head. We already know that the rest of the WNBA doesn't like Caitlin Clark for literally zero reason whatsoever. I don't know why the WNBA doesn't like Caitlin, because if these women use their let me rephrase that. If these women really think about it, they want the same thing that everyone else wants. They want more money, right? Like, that's the only thing that they've been arguing about, and that's the only reason why they've been popular for so many years, is because they want more money. Now comes an athlete that can give that to you and can push your brand and can push your, basketball and your skills, and not skills, my bad, can push your, granted, yes, she probably could push your skills, but could push the media coverage that you get. Here is the answer to all of the problems that every single one of the WNBA players has. And here they are treating it like it's it's garbage. That's essentially what they're doing, in my opinion, because it's like they see Caitlyn, they see all the attention that she's getting, and what do? They get jealous. It's clear as day. Now, they don't say it. They've never specifically said that they were jealous, but it is clear. It is clear cut that every single one of those WNBA athletes doesn't like Caitlyn, thinks her attention is too much, and like they get jealous, and I don't understand why. Because it's not like, I understand why Angel would be jealous, because she beat Caitlyn before and she got barely any attention from it. But again, it's like, you guys aren't going to get more money and you aren't going to be put in a better position without her. Like it or not, you are not going to be put in a better position without her. So if anything, respect her, suck it up, and just deal with it, because eventually you are going to get a much nicer paycheck than what you're getting right now. But I digress. So the reason why I am against Angel a little bit here is because despite this foul, despite this blatant hit to the head, and that's a flagrant foul in literally any basketball game, in my opinion. Like just winding it up and pow in the back of the head, that's gonna be a flagrant. And her response to that was, I guess some people got a special whistle in response to Caitlyn just getting all the calls, because again, it's like, this is just plain jealousy. It's as simple as that. I mean, seriously, special whistle? Like, are we serious here? They're not even trying to hide the jealousy. And it's what makes it even more baffling is how it's like, they're jealous despite the fact that this woman can legitimately back it up. Like, Caitlyn ended that game with 2 blocks. That is more blocks than Angel Reese in the entire WNBA season. Like, she has more blocks in one game than Angel does in the entire WNBA season, and we're already more than 10 games in. That is pure basketball skill that she just has, that the rest of these WNBA players, they just don't have it like her. I don't understand, like, they just don't have it like her. And there's a reason why she's getting all of this hype. That is the reason why she's getting all of this hype. When you hoop, when you see her hoop, it doesn't look like that's a woman picking up the basketball. Like, I am sorry to say it, it doesn't look like it, because that's just how good it is. Like, the way that the WNBA athletes, the way that they move, it's much more different than the way that the NBA players move. But when you look at Caitlyn, she is so smooth with the ball, and it's just so clean that this is why, like, people say that she could be in the NBA, because I don't know if you really notice, but it's like some of these WNBA athletes, whenever they do a specific thing, I don't know why, it looks like they stutter. I don't know why. It just looks so sloppy and it doesn't look clean. But Caitlyn, on the other hand, her style of play, it looks much cleaner than what a lot of these women put out there. This is just what I see. This is my eyes, my opinion. You guys can have a completely different opinion, but this is just what I've seen. And on top of that, in this game, Caitlyn became the first rookie in WNBA history to record 20-plus points, 8-plus rebounds, 9-plus assists, along with 2-plus blocks in a game. And she's the 4th player in WNBA history to reach these marks, joining Candace Parker, Tina Charles, and Courtney Vandersloot. So, again, she is already breaking records. She's already in elite company. It makes total sense why she is getting all of this hype and why she is going to be the face of the WNBA in the future. Now, I'm not saying that some of these other athletes, they don't deserve any kind of praise. That is not what I'm saying whatsoever. But the fact that none of these women are even... I have not heard a single positive thing that any of these women have had to say to Caitlyn. I have only heard negative things about Caitlyn Clark. I have not heard a single woman in the WNBA say anything positive about her, aside from her teammates. And that is really, really bad. I'm sorry to say it, but I do not agree with that whatsoever. Like, when you're in... Obviously, it's dependent on the situation, but if you are look at Victor Wembanyama, for example. I mean, the players on his team, they seemed to be jealous for a little bit, but the rest of the league, they weren't like, you know, trashing him and saying like it's a whole different ball game than over in France. It's a completely different game here. Like, it's much tougher, yada yada. You don't hear that. You didn't hear that in the NBA when Victor was getting drafted. The only thing that you heard coming from these athletes was he is going to be a freak of nature. Like, he is phenomenal. He is, you know, his game will adjust. This, that, all of these positive things you hear about Victor. And obviously, you know, the media is going to say bad things too. But mostly from the players, I've heard positive things coming from Victor or about Victor. I have not heard a single positive thing about Caitlyn coming from any of these WNBA players, and I don't understand why. I genuinely do not understand why. And, you know, coincidentally, like, my mother and I, like, we were both watching the game, and she was saying that, like, she feels that the rest of the league is a little bit jealous of her, and it's like, these were her words, these weren't mine. And it's like, it seems like, you know, it's a very... She said it was, you know what, I'm not even going to say what she said, but it's typical, I guess you could say. Like, in her sense, she sees it as typical, and it's like, it makes sense why they don't like her, because it's like, you know, they're really jealous of all the attention that she's getting, despite the fact that she is a rookie and she's never even played in the WNBA, and she's already being, like, you know, regarded as one of the better basketball players. Obviously, that's going to, like, rub people the wrong way, but, like, at the same time, you also have to understand that it's like, without her, the league isn't going to be getting the same amount of revenue, and it's not going to be making any kind of money. You're still going to be stuck at square one, complaining about not getting paid enough. So why would you want to be stuck there when you could, you know, like, all you have to do is just, like, you know, give her a little bit of credit. Just a little bit of credit. That's literally all that you have to do. And, like, you know, sort of give her that platform and give her that, you know, I guess you could say that blessing, I guess you could say, to lead the league and be that star that, you know, the WNBA needs. Because, like it or not, she is the chosen one for this WNBA league, like it or not. And a lot of WNBA players aren't going to like it, but that's how it has to be in order for the WNBA to gain traction. Believe me, if Caitlyn decided to take the Ice Cube deal and play in the Big Three, nobody, I'm telling you, nobody would pay attention to the WNBA. Plain and simple, clear and cut. And that's all I have for this fourth segment. They need to stop with the hate on Caitlyn. It is childish. It is unnecessary, especially, like, with someone that's going to bring so much good to your game. It's ungrateful. It really is. Like, it's just, how are you that ungrateful? It annoys me. But with that out of the way, we can go right ahead and go into the next segment, which is going to be the last segment of the show, and it's going to be about Game 5, which is going to happen tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about what I think is going to happen, this, that, and the other, my opinions, my predictions, everything that could happen right after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned. and we are back with the 5th segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this 5th segment, we are going to be doing a quick preview of Game 5. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter segment than the rest of them, because, I'm a little bit more excited for this game because we might have a series. We might actually have a series. Now, before, I thought this was going to be a sweep. However, I'm a little bit more confident now that this series, it could extend a little bit more than a few more games. Now, I'll explain why. So, I said before, not a single team has ever won after trailing 3-0 in the NBA Finals, right? That was the reason why I thought the series was over. Because unlike in other sports, whenever it's 3-0, that is it. Like it for NBA. No team has ever been able to do it. However, no team has ever won a series after losing by 38 in a finals game. That has never happened before either. So, two outcomes that have never happened before in the history of basketball could happen right here after this game or after Game 7. It could happen. And with this sort of this unstoppable force meeting an immovable object kind of thing going on with the series, I'm a little bit more optimistic. Now, I'm very superstitious, and I think that things, they always happen for a reason. And this is obviously this being a little bit of a thing that clashes heads. It's it could make the series a little bit more competitive, and it could give Dallas something to sort of fight back with. Not only that, the way that the Celtics are taking these losses are a bit meh. I don't know how to describe it other than they're just meh, if that makes sense. So this is what Jason Tatum allegedly said at the end of expecting to win Game 5. We would love to win Game 5, but if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. What? That's your response to, we want to win Game 5, but, if we don't, then, it's whatever. No. The response should have been, yes, we want to win in Game 5. Period. Done. Because it's, why do you want to, prolong... Why are you, dangling the fish or something like that? Trying to prolong this series when you don't need to. Just saying it's not the end of the world. It could be the end of the world if you mess up. If you mess this up, it could genuinely be the end of the world for the Celtics if you mess this up. If you become the first team to lose a series after being up 3-0, you are going to get clowned out of, the entire city of Boston is going to get clowned for decades. They aren't going to be able to live that down. They genuinely won't. And it's it's not the end of the world. Is that really the answer? Is that really how you view it? It's just meh, it's whatever. We could win, or if we lose, it's cuz to me, it's they aren't even, it seems like they, obviously I'm not saying that they don't want to win, but it seems like they don't want to put their heart and soul into winning, if that makes sense. It's, I don't know, maybe I'm just overreacting because of the question that was asked, but at the same time, it's I wouldn't really answer that question. I wouldn't even bring up, if it doesn't happen, it's not the end. I wouldn't even bring that up, because it's all I would say is we would love to win in Game 5. Or actually, I wouldn't even say we would love to. I would say I want to win in Game 5. Period. Done. And it's because you have set your goal and you are going to try and set the goal, right? You're going for it. But this kind of response, it's sort of you're going for it, but if you don't get it, it's eh. If that makes sense. I don't know why. It's it doesn't seem like they want it. And it seems they're just going through the motions of this game and thinking that Dallas is going to lie down and take it and just end it. I feel that, yes, that's what the response is. If they think Dallas is going to lie down, and I'm just no, Dallas is not going to lie down. And while the series might not have been competitive before, it could end up being competitive soon. And you don't want that to happen if you are in the position that you're in right now with Boston. I mean, you have game 5. You have it at home. There is no need to try to, be nonchalant about this. Close the game out in 5, and while you're at home, so you don't have to worry about traveling over to Dallas again, losing in Dallas, and then traveling back to play in your home, but this time with the pressure of a game 7. You do not want that. You do not want to put yourself in that position. You have to win it now. And that's really like the big thing, and like the big reason why I think, this series, it could end up going a little bit longer than what we might think or what we were expecting. So, but with that, regardless of that, I still think that the Celtics are going to end up winning. Like, I think they're going to end up winning this game and closing it out. But again, this is just like, this is really like, it's so difficult to pick because it's like, it's an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, and it's like, I'm sticking with Boston just because, of the fact that they're at home and they recently got absolutely destroyed, and I'm fairly confident in their ability to bounce back in this one. But I'm not going to say that, I am completely confident on my pick. I'm going to say that, like, my pick right here, it's 51-49. How about that? Because it's like, I really want to pick Dallas, but I just don't see I don't see it happening. I genuinely, like, as of here, I don't see it. But I'm just saying that, like, it's definitely, like, a possibility that it does happen. So I think I go 51 Celtics, 49 Dallas Mavericks on, like, who I think is going, like, has the better odds of winning. And it's really, really close. And I know it shouldn't really be that close because the Celtics are 3-1 in this series, and they're up by 3-1. They've dominated in every single game that they've won in. But the response to that Tatum gave to the media, and like sort of the way that they've been acting about this, these series and the losses that they've had, well, not really the losses that they've had, but the loss that they had, I don't really feel it. I don't know why. I don't think this is a good mindset to have. And when you have a mindset like this, where it's like you aren't determined to finish out the series, then I don't think you're going to finish out the series, plain and simple. But that's all I really have for this 5th segment, and that is the end of the podcast. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the game. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen for this game in the comments, and I'm definitely going to be watching this game that's going down. It's starting at, I believe, 8:30. Yes, it's going to be on at 8:30 on ABC, so definitely going to be tuning in. And thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support, it means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is GSMCPodcast.net. That is all I have for you guys in this segment. Thank you once again. I am your host, Nelson, and enjoy the game later tonight. As always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that